Hi, I'm Phil. This is Phil with Facts, and this is Mushroom Mead Part 2. Yeah, I said it, Part 2. So today, we're going to open this lid for the first time since we started this and see what we're dealing with. And it looks beautiful. Alright, next thing we're going to do, quick disclaimer before anything else. Everything that touches my brew today has been sanitized with Star San, but you can use any food grade safe sanitizer you have access to. Please use a sanitizer. Don't try brewing without it. You can boil stuff, wash stuff really nicely. Sanitizer just gets rid of anything that might be harmful in your stuff that might hurt your brew. So I recommend using it. Alright, so now we're going to take our auto siphon. We're going to go about halfway down. Oh, and yes, I left the cap on. There is least on the bottom of this. I don't want that least in my final product. And there we go. This is definitely the most exciting thing you've watched today, I promise. Alright, and a little bit more. And that's all we got. Just strain it off. Get every little drop you can out. Now you might ask yourself, I have a bucket full of... So you might ask yourself, I have this whole bucket full of mushrooms and leaves, and what am I going to do with that? Some people like to wash their leaves, reuse it. You could do it a few times. I might do a video on that sometimes. I've had varying results. So sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't. The mushrooms and everything else, I throw into my own garden. It's full of nitrogen at this point, full of other good stuff, really good for your soil. If you have compost, this is great for compost. If you want to just throw it out, you could just throw it out. It's done its job. So you're good there. Now, here I have my hydrometer. Here I have a hydrometer. I always say it every video, but you really need one if you're going to start brewing at home. It's one of those few things where I'm like, you need sanitizer, you need a hydrometer, and everything else you can kind of pick and choose and figure out for yourself what works. But without a hydrometer, you're not going to know how much alcohol you have. You're not going to know if you have a stuck brew, if it went through all the way, because the yeast could stop pretty quickly. And it could clear out of a beverage rather neatly. And you might have a super sweet 3% alcoholic thing that was probably not your intention. There we go. Once we get to start floating, I can see that we're at a 0.999. We started at 1.100. I'm going to put what the ABV is right down here. We're going to go have a little bit of a taste. It really smells interesting. It's rather young. This is about a month old. Definitely tastes young. But the mushrooms come through. And it doesn't come through like mushrooms. Like, I don't feel like I'm drinking a glass of pressed mushrooms. It actually has a white grape type of flavoring to it. It's dry, but I still know there's honey there. So the honey is coming through. This is probably going to be just as good as the mushroom one I made, but I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit better with time. So what are we going to do next? We're not going to waste any of our mead. Okay, we're going to waste a little bit of our mead. Next, we're going to put an airlock back on. You fill your airlock with the same sanitizer solution that you soaked everything in. You could use just water. There's nothing wrong with that. But using sanitizer, which is an acid-based thing, if any bugs do manage to get in and get into one of the tubes, the sanitizer water will kill them. Now, are they going to get through anyway? Probably not. What you don't want to do is you don't want to use anything like rubbing alcohol or anything that if it dripped into here might harm you if you drink it. You want to avoid that. Next, I'm going to take a sticky note. Now, I've been using sticky notes for a reason. I could put a sticky note on this, and in a month from now, when I'm done with the brew, I take it right off. No harm, no foul. I was using labels for the longest time, and now if you look at any of my carboys, I have torn labels and scratched labels, and yeah, you can get them off, but it is a hassle to get them off. So I'm saying just do yourself a favor and use sticky notes. We're going to make some notes on what this is, and then you guys are going to see me in about a month from now when we bottle this. So I'll see you guys then. Okay, so it's been about a month, and I think I'm ready to bottle at this point. You'll see that I had a mushroom mead. We started on 1/20 of 2021. It was a 1.100. On 2/18, we got it down to a 0.999. And since I didn't add any sugars or sweeten it, and there's no sugars left in it, I know it didn't go down anymore. But today is 3/21, and I put that it's 13.5%, and I'm ready to bottle. Except, give me 1 second. Except that I need one of these, my auto siphon. Really hard to bottle without it. Since I don't know if there's any more release at the bottom, I'm going to leave the little cap on for now, but I'll take it off when I start to actually bottle. As always, one end goes into a pitcher, one end goes into the liquid. The liquid has to be elevated. This is a gravity siphon. The only way it works is if there's the only way it works is if there's a difference in elevation. We can slowly let it get to the bottom. If it starts to look cloudy through the hose, we pull it back up, but it looks pretty good. Means there's not a lot of sediment, which is a good sign. All right, not bad at all. Not a crazy amount of sediment at the bottom. Alright, so once we get our mead into our pitcher, next thing we want to do is degas. Now, a lot of gases form during fermentation. They're not necessarily the best tasting of gases, and they're not going to give you any flavors you really want. So what you do is you mix, break it up, mix in the other direction, and continue this for a couple of minutes. This will force most of the gases that you don't want out of your brew. So you know this is working when it doesn't smell pleasant coming off of the brew. It's a smell that you get familiar with over time, but you know that it's not pleasant. You know that it's not what you want inside your liquid. So you stir. But this is starting to look really good right now. It's really clear. I know it doesn't look that way through the picture, but I'm happy with it. Next thing you're going to need. So now what you're going to want to do is take your bottling wand. It has this little springy thing at the one side. It's going to allow me to fill my brew, and when the bottle is enough, I lift, and then it stops the flow. This is going to prevent a lot of the mess that you get from bottling. Now remember, you only want to attach it enough that it's in firm enough that it won't fall out while you're bottling. You don't want it in so much that you can never remove it from the siphon again. Otherwise you have a permanent bottling siphon, and that probably wasn't your intention. You're going to see I pulled a few bottles out. They've all been sanitized. They're different shapes and sizes. Most of them are swing tops, because that's what I have available right now. For a wine like this that's not sparkling and I'm not worried about it carbonating, you don't really need to have it in a swing top. You could reuse a Scotch bottle. If you have other bottles, you could reuse them. You could buy wine bottles. I just don't have any at the moment for this, hence. But that's perfectly acceptable. And if you want to reuse bottles, go for it. If you want to buy swing tops because you like the way they look, go for it. Just know that you don't need swing tops for a beverage that's literally 0.99. It's not going to ferment anymore. I have no worries that there's going to be any carbonation or pressure in here. Now, the great thing about a bottling wand is you literally fill it to the very top, you lift, and it stops. It's not going to overflow, it's not going to move anymore. Also, it helps to give you a good level inside your bottle, so you don't have too much air, or not enough headspace, that kind of stuff. It now occurs to me I might have an issue. I'm about to run out of bottle, and I still have plenty of mead left. However, it's not really an issue. All I need to do is let go, and my setup is good until I get back with more bottles. Alright, and it's not bad. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 bottles, different sizes, just not a big deal. What's going to happen now? This half bottle is going to go in my fridge. That's way too much headspace. This is going to get drank first. It's going to get drank sooner rather than later. As far as these go, they're going to go into probably storage, boxes. I have a room where I keep stuff. You don't want to keep it like in your garage or in a shed or something where it's exposed to the elements. You want it to stay at a fairly constant temperature. But as long as you don't disturb them, they'll last for years. And when you're ready to start drinking them, you can pop a couple bottles in your fridge, get them nice and cooled down, and they'll be ready for you when you want them. And of course, there was a little bit left over for a taste. Not enough to help that bottle out, but you made it, you should know what it tastes like, right? And I'll say, after 2 months, that honey is starting to come through, just ever so slightly. The mushrooms, they're there. And I don't know if it's a fermented mushroom taste or whatnot, because I know it's mushroom. In my head, I see mushroom, but that's because I put the mushrooms in there. If I passed this to somebody on the street and said, hey, try this, what do you think this wine is made out of? I guarantee you they wouldn't say mushrooms. They probably have a hard time figuring it out. It's rather dry, but not in a bad way. I like it. I think there's some really unique qualities to it. We're going to have to do a tasting video on this at some point, just so I can really get those points across. But yeah, it has a nice mouthfeel. There's a good amount of tannins to it. It has like a nice, refreshing bite to it. Is it the best mead ever? No. But for a mead made out of mushrooms and honey, it's a really good mead. I'll see you guys at the final facts. And welcome to the final facts. So, as I stated in another video, I originally saw this mushroom wine video from Happy Homestead, which was great. I made a mushroom wine. I played around with it a little bit. I made 2 or 3, I actually think, but the last one I made was fantastic. It was like one of the best wines I ever made, and I couldn't believe it was made with mushrooms. And I said the one thing that was missing from it was a little bit of complexity. And I thought if I made a mead out of it, I'd finally get that complexity I was looking for in it. And I am not wrong. Is it one of the best meads I've ever made? No. I think mushroom wine had things to it that mushroom mead maybe needs a little bit more age before it gets. So we'll put these bottles away. We'll taste them again in 6 months. We'll taste them again in a year. We'll see if the age is what brings it out. But right now what I have is a really crisp, almost grape wine, like a white grape wine taste to it, with a really nice mouthfeel. And then the honey just kind of hints its way out, like saying, hey, I'm here. But maybe it's because it's not sweet, I'm not getting the full effect of it. I don't really know. This is going to have to be a question for another day. However, guys, this just goes to show, if you're doing home brews, play around, experiment. You don't know what you're going to end up with until you give it a shot. So I'm Phil, this is Phil with Facts. And guys, until next time, cheers.